السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله أكبر الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. الله
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر.
الله أكبر. الله.
لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمد وسلم وابعثه اللهم المقام المحمود الذي وعدته إنك لا تخلف الميعاد. بسم الله. اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله تعالى من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. وأشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا ونبينا وقرة أعيننا محمدًا عبده ورسوله، صفوته من خلقه وحبيبه، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى أتاه اليقين. وصلى الله على آله الطيبين الطاهرين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل، وأحذركم وأحذر نفسي من عصيانه ومخالفة أمره. يقول تعالى: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما ثم أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار الحمد لله على نعمة الإسلام وكفى بها نعمة. My dear brothers and sisters, all thanks and praise to Allah Azza wa Jal for the ni'mah of making us muwahhideen, for making us muslimin, for making us mu'mineen. عباد الله, my dear brothers and sisters, القلب محل نظر الله عز وجل. The heart is where Allah Azza wa Jal judge us. إن الله لا ينظر إلى أموالكم ولا إلى أجسامكم ولكن ينظر إلى قلوبكم وأعمالكم. Allah Azza wa Jal does not look to judge us by the way we look, by the financial status we have. He judge us, Allah Azza wa Jal judge us by what's in our hearts, by our actions. If our heart is sound, is upright, is clean, that's the sign of a successful person. And a heart that is corrupt with diseases is a heart of the person who is doomed, a person who is failed with Allah Azza wa Jal. So the success of at the day of the resurrection is for the one who come to Allah with a clean and sound and upright heart. Allah Azza wa Jal in the story of Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said, وَلَا تُخْزِنِي يَوْمَ يُبْعَثُونَ يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. So the secret is to come to Allah Azza wa Jal with a clean heart, with a heart that is sound, that is clean from any corruption. And as we discussed last time in previous khutbahs, the characteristics of a good manner, of a good Muslim with a good character, today inshallah we'll talk about the opposite, about the other side, about people who have one of the worst and one of the very oldest characters that are hated by Allah Azza wa Jal and His Prophet and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And this characteristic is al-kibr, is arrogance, is having ego. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned in the hadith what he said, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال حبة من كبر. He said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, whoever has an atom, a weight of atom of kibr, of arrogance in his heart, Jannah will be prohibited from him. He will not enter paradise. This is very serious, my dear brothers and sisters. And if we compare what we were talking about last time for people with good characters, with people that we're going to be talking about today. One beautiful hadith is really clarifying this, where the Prophet ﷺ said, أحبكم إلي وأقربكم مني مجلسا يوم القيامة أحسنكم أخلاقا وإن من أبغضكم إلي وأبعدكم مني مجلسا يوم القيامة الثرثارون والمفيقهون والمتشدقون. He said sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that those among whom I like most and whom will be nearer to me in the day of judgment are those who have best of manners. However, those who talk nonsense, who talk too much just to impress people, and those who have kibr, who have arrogance, will be the most hated people by me in the day of judgment, and they will be the farthest from me in the day of resurrection. So you compare and you choose which one you want, my dear brothers and sisters. So the Prophet ﷺ despises you, and you will be furthest away from him. Luqman gave us the most valuable advice to his son. After he asked him to pray on time and he asked him not to do shirk, he said, يَا بُنَيَّ أَقِيمِ الصَّلَاةِ وَأْمُرْ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَانْهَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ إِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ عَزْمِ الْأُمُورِ ولا تصعر خدك للناس ولا تمش في الأرض مرحا إن الله لا يحب كل مختال فخور. So he said sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, after he asked him not to make shirk and to pray on time and to do all the righteous things, do not raise up your chin to the people to look down on them, and do not walk on earth forcefully, thinking good of yourself, thinking that you are better than everybody else. And Allah Azza wa Jal ended the ayah by, Allah never likes those who show off, who have ego, who have kibr, who have arrogance, who think they're better than everybody else. So inshallah, what I would like to share with you today is some very brief thoughts that we don't discuss so much nowadays, but it needs our attention. It certainly needs our attention. The thing I want to talk to you about is a culture among especially young Muslims who go on a certain religious journey, especially in Western society. A lot of time, Muslim youth live a life of, let's just say, partying, having fun, doing whatever they want. And then all of a sudden, they have this epiphany where they turn around, and sometimes in life, and they turn around to religion. A lot of youth, brothers and sisters, have this change of heart sometimes in their life, and they become more serious gradually about religion. But then what happens when they become more serious about religion? They become so serious, so rigid, and they think they know better than everybody else. All of a sudden, they start criticizing the ulama, they start criticizing the people that spend most of their life in serving this deen. They start calling them names, they start saying they're deviant, this guy is mubtadi', this guy having bid'ah, I don't listen to this guy because he's such and such. And my beautiful youth just started 2 days ago. And why is this? Because of kibr, because of ego, because he thinks all of a sudden he knows much better than everybody else. So sometimes when this happens to our youth, unfortunately, they start looking for a teacher. And they find themselves that teacher. And unfortunately, sometimes that teacher could be a series of YouTube channels. Sometimes it could be a virtual a username in Facebook. Sometimes it could be a person. But anyways, they find themselves a source that they associate themselves with. And more importantly, they associate as their authentic source for their knowledge. So when they become very passionate, slowly that starts happening. what starts happening is that they become rigid and they become so rude to their family members and their friends. And they become so frustrated with people around them, especially their family. Why don't you understand? Why don't you do this like this? This is the way Sunnah is. This is the way Deen is. And they start having that friction. And that friction, unfortunately, and conflict starts growing up. And this is not limited to the family. It can happen with friends, with people in the masjid, with friends in school, everywhere they go, unfortunately. You start questioning them a lot more, and you come in contact with people and you don't see things the way you do. Then you make it a point to let them know and make them feel that they're wrong and you're right. An attitude develops, and especially among youth. They have this urge inside of them to show their domination over others. I want to show people that I'm superior. I want to show them that I know better. So in this devious way, without even realizing it most of the time, they are telling people their religious opinion while they're expressing themselves as superior. So religion in this matter becomes like a mean by which you promote your own ego. It's ironic, unfortunately, because Islam was revealed to us to teach us humbleness. Islam revealed to us so we humble ourselves. The Deen came so we humble ourselves, unfortunately, my dear brothers and sisters, and we're now using that very Deen to express our arrogance. This is not something that happens only in our youth, by the way. It happens among our elders as well and our leaders. You know Iblis, la'natullahi alayh. What happened to Iblis? Why he was jealous of Adam alayhi salam? What did he think Adam was getting? Was he thinking Adam was getting a promotion or getting a nice job with a nice salary? Or was he getting a nice house in Jannah or in earth? What was he jealous about Adam alayhi salam? He was jealous about Adam because he was getting a religious honor. He was getting a religious title. That's what made Iblis said, no. I know better than that guy. I am more qualified to be instead of Adam alayhi salam. So test yourself, my dear brothers and sisters, and think about every time you think, why they picked that guy as the president of the masjid? Why that guy is the MSA president, not me? I know better. I'm more qualified than him. Test yourself, my dear brothers and sisters. If that your reaction in this heart right here, unfortunately, you have this ego, you have this arrogance. You gotta fix it. So, like we said, this is a religious task. You don't get money when you become an MSA president. You don't get a new car when you run for the masjid. But yet, you see across this country, especially, people fighting tooth and nail over what? Over religious titles. Over who's going to be the number one on every organization. Whose words are going to be listened to. Who is in charge of the masjid? Who is in charge of the Islamic society? Who is in charge of any kind of boards? This is a disease, unfortunately, my dear brothers and sisters, that is very, very old. It started with who? With Iblis. So if you want to associate yourself with Iblis, go for it, my dear brothers and sisters, and run and fight for a religious honor and a religious title. And make sure your word is the last one. If you give your opinion and somebody else gives their opinion, and their opinion, is approved, and you feel like you're offended, make sure you fight for it, because that's exactly, it's gonna get you to the club of Shaitan, of Iblis, the leader of arrogant people. And then it comes Fir'aun, and it comes Haman, and then it comes Abu Lahab. So think about it, my dear brothers and sisters. If you associate yourself in this club, these are going to be your buddies. Again, if that's your attitude, my dear brothers and sisters, you have got a serious problem. You really have a serious problem, because now you think that deen depends on whom? You think it depends on you. And deen is not in need of us. Allah Azza wa Jal, huwa al-Ghani al-Hamid. Allah is in no need of us. We are in need of Allah and His deen. Allah Azza wa Jal and His deen does not need us. And yet we are deluding ourselves, my dear brothers and sisters, into thinking that everything depends on us. Everything depends upon me. I am the source of the good. And unfortunately, we are not. You are not the source of the good. Allah Azza wa Jal is the only source of good. This is a very serious problem, my dear brothers and sisters, and we really have to watch ourselves and fix our shortcoming. The guy with kibr looks more practicing than the other guy who doesn't have a beard. And she looks more righteous than the other sister who doesn't have hijab. They look more religious from the outward. However, the inside, there is that big ego where he thinks and she thinks that she knows better, that she is more qualified, that he is more qualified. You are more righteous, you are more qualified, you are in a better position than the other people. And if in your hearts, if you look down upon another Muslim, no matter what their condition is, if you look down upon them, if you do that, then you have this inside in your heart, which we said is called kibr, arrogance. And as we learned from the Prophet ﷺ famous hadith, where he said, عن عبد الله بن مسعود رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر فقال رجل إنه يعجبني أن يكون ثوبي حسنا ونعلي حسن فقال صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم إن الله جميل ويحب الجمال الكبر بطر الحق وغمط الناس. So the Prophet صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم said, whoever has an atom worth of kibr in his heart will not enter paradise. So men said, what about I love to have nice clothes, nice shoes, I like to wear beautiful clothes and shoes all the time. Is that kibr? He said no. He made sure sallallahu alaihi wasallam to make sure he explains what kibr is. He said no. Allahu jamilun wa yuhibbul jamal. He said Allah is beautiful and He likes beauty. So wearing better clothes, wearing nice, either when you go to work or especially when you come to Jumu'ah, is not kibr. That is actually highly recommended. However, he said, Al-kibru batrul haqqi wa ghamtun nas. He said, Al-kibr, arrogance, it is when you reject the truth and you look down upon people. This is very simple meaning of what the kibr is. The Prophet ﷺ did not leave any room for people to interpret and say, he always liked to wear nice clothes, so maybe, he's arrogant. He made sure he explains it to his Sahaba. He said, no, wearing nice clothes, wearing nice shoes is not kibr. In the opposite, Allah is jameel wa yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beautiful and He likes beauty. He likes to see you beautiful. But al-kibr, arrogance, is when you see something real, something true, and you say, no, I don't think so. We live in 21st century. I know better. I'm Maliki, you're Hanafi, or I'm Hanafi, you're Hanbali. You don't know anything. I know better. That's one. So the first portion of kibr, of arrogance, is when you think you know better. The second portion, which is more important, which we're focusing on today, is ghamatun nas, is when you think you are better than people. You look down on people. You think he's just a taxi driver. He's only African. Without even saying it, the way you talk to the person, the way you answer his question, makes you qualified to be al-mutakabbir wal-'iyadu billah. So my dear brothers and sisters, a master of seed, of arrogance, that much of arrogance in your heart, what is not open to you? You know, Jannah is not open to you, unfortunately. What I'm trying to say is that you have a Muslim who does bad things, like, a guy who drinks, a guy who misses salawat, a guy who does certain obvious mukhalafat or bad deeds. So his evil actions are outward. You could see them, you could fix them. He knows he drinks, he knows he doesn't pray, he knows he doesn't do enough. So he's working on fixing himself. The problem with you having kibr, you don't even realize it. You think you're doing good. You think that's the reality that's how you should be. And in this, we're not condoning people who drink or people who do the bad stuff. We're just saying this is worse, because you may live your life thinking that you're doing the right thing, but unfortunately, you have more than darra of kibr in your hearts. And what's the abode? May Allah help us and keep us away from Jahannam wal-'iyadu billah. So your arrogance is a bigger problem to fix. Why is it a bigger problem? We said because you can't even see it. Some people right now, they'll hear this khutbah and they start thinking, wow, I know somebody who's arrogant who can benefit from this khutbah. That itself is a sign of arrogance. Because who you should be worried about? You should be worried about yourself. You should be worried about fixing your heart. You don't care about other people. The counsel of Quran and Sunnah is not for everybody else. It's for me first. So we become very selfish, unfortunately, my dear brothers and sisters, self-centered, self-serving. And that manifests itself sometimes when the husband hears a khutbah or hears a lecture about the rights of husband. And he goes back home and he goes, hey, let me tell you what I heard. Let me show you what the rights of the husband is. That's again another sign of arrogance. That's another sign of self-centered. You only think about yourself. Same thing with us parents. What is the first verse we teach to our kids? I'm sure 99% of you will say, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, right? May Allah Azza wa Jal help us watch our ego and watch our heart and clean it before we get to the day of judgment. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولجميع المسلمين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى وخصوصا على أفضلهم وخاتمهم سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. My dear brothers and sisters, let me give you some tips on how you know you have an ego so you can fix yourself. Just some basic tips, my dear brothers and sisters. When someone corrects you and you get really offended, bingo, you got a problem. If someone tries to give you an advice and you feel really, really offended, you think, who is he to tell me that? Why is he trying to correct me? Who he thinks himself is? I am such and such. And you think about all the titles and all the education you have, and you think, why is he even thinking about advising me? Why is he thinking about correcting me? That is ego, my dear brothers and sisters. You have a serious problem that you have to work on. And it's never too late. If that is your first reaction, then you have an ego problem, my dear brothers and sisters. Even if that person isn't right. even if that person did it in a wrong way. Always take the good stuff from his advice or her advice. Even if 1% of the advice is correct and the rest is wrong. Your reaction should be, maybe Allah Azza wa Jal sent this guy so that I'm awake, so that I watch myself more. Take it in a positive way. Don't reject the advice. Let the first reaction not to be, who is he to tell me? I am the president, or I am the imam, or I am whoever I am. If you feel the need to interject, this is another tip, my dear brothers and sisters. If you feel always need to interject every conversation, and if you feel the need to have your opinion heard, no matter what, if you get really offended that your opinion was not taken in the end, you gave your opinion, someone else gave another opinion, but your opinion was not the final one taken, guess what? If you get offended, you've got an ego problem. Especially in matters of religion, as we explained before with Iblis la'inullah. No, I gave my opinion, so it will be the supreme opinion, and that didn't come out, so I am offended. That is a big sign, my dear brothers and sisters, and you really have to work on it, because this is very serious. This is the worst characteristics of Ahlul Jahannam, of people of Jahannam, is kibr. This is an easy way, my dear brothers and sisters, to check yourself. If you felt bad, you can check yourself. You have to check yourself all the time. These are exercises that are difficult to engage in. However, we have to engage in them. So the real problem is the hidden arrogance, the hidden ego. Nobody is going to be able to gauge it except yourself. Nobody is going to be able to fix it for you except yourself. The outward may be very religious. Maybe someone who's given. Maybe someone with good knowledge. But the inward is kibr, is arrogance, is thinking down of people. Thinking that you know more. Thinking down on people with less fortune. With people who don't have good education. People who don't have good income. So the outward is religious, but the inward is basically egotistical. That urge to show your supremacy for others. May Allah Azza wa Jal instill and ingrain humbleness in our hearts. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevate our status with Him by making us modest servant to Him, alayhi salatu wassalam. May Allah Azza wa Jal grant us the gift of better company than ourselves, that keeps our ego in check. Because if you have good company, and that's why the Prophet ﷺ said, مَثَلُ الصَّدِيقِ الْحَسَنِ كَبَائِعِ الْمِسْكِ. If you have good company, it's like you have someone who's selling perfume. You're always around that guy who sells perfume. You're always going to get something nice. If you didn't buy perfume from him, you're always going to get a good smell. But if your company is a mechanic and you hang out with him, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even if you don't get a bad smell, you're always going to get something, you're going to, your clothes are going to be dirty or something else is going to happen to you. So choose your company, because good company helps you fix your ego, my dear brothers and sisters. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to give advice to those around us. The people of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, the people who share this wonderful kalima, are more beloved to us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us share the love and affection and humility with the other Muslims, and show that sincerity from the bottom of our hearts. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us capable of taking advice and taking the best of it, and not allowing the advice to become a means by which our egos are inflated. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم على خير الخلق وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا هداة المهتدين. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم إنا ظلمنا أنفسنا ظلما كثيرا ولا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت فاغفر لنا يا رب مغفرة من عندك وارحمنا إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له.